Hey, what it do, everybody? This is Leave No Witness, and this is my story time. This is something new that I'm doing on my channel, so if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you haven't subbed, please sub. When I was growing up, and I was young, in my early 20s, let's say around 23, 24, I got into trouble, a lot of trouble. In and out of jail. And now I'm 43 now, and I haven't been in trouble since I got out of prison in 2006. But before I went to prison, I did go to jail. I had my stints. And while I was in jail, one of the times that I was there, a guy walked through, and I'm not making this up. This guy was huge. He was like 6'6" and built, and he was just huge. And I remember, him walking through the pod. In between the pods, we could see through the glass, right where I was at. This happened in Daytona Beach, Florida. Actually, it was New Smyrna. And I was young at the time, 23, around there, 20, 23. This happened in 2004. So I remember looking out the window and seeing this guy come in. He had 2 pairs of handcuffs on because he was so big, and they brought him in. This is the story of the Xbox murderers. There was 4 of them that were involved. This crime was so brutal that this is a warning to anybody that has any kind of anxiety or this is a trigger warning. View at your own discretion. I'm going to go over everything that I know about the case and also facts about the case. First, let's just start off with a video that I have real quick.
Gruesome mass murder in a gruesome mass murder in Deltona are due back in court. Hearings will be held today in the case against Troy Victorino and Jaron Hunter. Both were sentenced to death for the 2004 murders of 6 people inside a home on Telford Lane. However, they both have to be resentenced because the verdicts were not unanimous, and that is set to happen in June. The crime became known as the Xbox murders because prosecutors say Victorino went to the home to get his gaming system when the murders happened.
Okay, now, he is still fighting this to this day. He has a court date coming up. He got his death sentence overturned because they came out with a new law that every juror has to say that it has to be unanimous. Every single juror has to vote for the death penalty. If they don't, then it'll get overturned, and that's what happened. And since it got overturned, now he's trying to fight the life sentence that he has, but he has a court date coming up, I believe in August, maybe, I'm not sure, but he does have a court date that's coming up, which I'm pretty sure they're not going to let this guy off at all. I'm not going to focus on the other 3 that was involved in this case. Just Troy himself, because he was the gang leader. He was the one that was in charge of everything. He was the one that, you can see this is his background, starting all the way back to 1993. This guy starts out, he was very young at the time too. Grand theft auto, arson with damage, another grand theft auto, grand theft, burglary of a construction or conveyance or attempt, Grand Theft Auto, another Grand Theft Auto, arson, Grand Theft Auto, Grand Theft of 300, burglary of construction, Grand Theft, aggravated battery, intended harm, Grand Theft motor vehicle. And now, he also has the, murder and all that to add on it. Like I said, I don't want to focus too much on these ones, which was Michael Salas, Jerome Hunter, and Robert Cannon. They end up snitching. The victims, there were 6 victims altogether. Aaron Bellinger, it was her grandparents' house. Now let me tell you the story that I heard from being inside of the jail at the time. They went there for that Xbox because there was something inside of that Xbox that they wanted. And it wasn't just an Xbox. But that's what they thought. But really, there was nothing inside the Xbox. But they thought that there was. Troy Victorino and them thought that for whatever reason that there was something stashed inside the Xbox, which turned out to not even be true. But it was this girl's grandparents' house who just moved to Florida from New Hampshire. Francisco Ayo Roman moved from Puerto Rico to finish school and get his nursing certificate. That was Aaron's boyfriend. These two. I'm not sure which one. Anthony Vega was Michelle's boyfriend, construction worker who moved from New York to Florida. Michelle and Nathan was Vegas' boyfriend. Father got the same tattoo. Vegas boyfriend. Father got same tattoo she had on her arm. Spoke Jonathan Gleason and Robert Gonzalez. He did not live there. Was just spending the night at the wrong place at the wrong time. Let me tell you how brutal these murders were. They beat these people so bad with baseball bats. It done the most unthinkable things that you could think of with the baseball bats. And not only that, it went so far as they killed their dog and did the unthinkable to the dog by just doing the worst thing that you could to anybody by just, Jerome Hunter. These are the ones that right now, these 3 here, I really don't want to focus on. Those are a whole nother story because they end up snitching, telling on each other. One confesses the whole thing right from the beginning. But Victorino, he was the leader of it all. But I do got to put them in here so you can see what happened. It says here the co-defendants, they had no prior criminal record at all. These 3 here, so you already know that they're already lame. Like, they're going to tell why he did this. I have no clue. But like I said, the word on the street at the time was he thought that there was something inside that Xbox. He had, Troy Victorino had a record of thefts, arson, and battery, which we just showed you. Or I just showed you. Victorino and Hunter were using the Bellingers' home as a party house. Like I said, Victorino and Hunter, these 2 here, were using the girl that had Aaron's house as a like a party house. And I'm telling you, the word on the street is they had to stash something inside of the Xbox. And they were serving out the house, using it as a party house. That was until the granddaughter moved in and had the police remove them. That's when they got evicted. He attempted to get his belongings back from the police and was denied. He wanted that Xbox for a reason, like I said. that Xbox, it was to him, inside of it was not your normal Xbox parts. All right, let's just put it that way. He thought that there was drugs, or he knew that there was drugs or money inside of the Xbox, and he couldn't get his belongings back. So, as revenge for kicking them out and for believing all belongings were not accounted for, the Xbox being one of them, he got a group together to get back at the granddaughter and to retrieve his items. Now, you can't tell me this guy right here and this guy right here, they're not just going to do this for an Xbox. They could have ran in Best Buy, grabbed as many Xboxes as they wanted, and ran out the store with them at the time in 2004. Things weren't locked up like they are now. They could have ran right out the store with an Xbox. So, even though it's dubbed the Xbox Murderers, it's dubbed that for a reason. Like I said, I was inside of the jail when this guy came through, and you know how stories get passed around. I was also a trustee at one time, and I have so many stories to tell y'all about the most gruesomest people. And one of them I even worked with, and I ended up feeding him while I was in the county jail because I was a trustee that fed, which at the time was Unit 3, which housed all the worst people of the worst. So, he attempts to get, so as revenge, he goes in and he kicks in the door, and he comes with baseball bats and a group of people. So, let's go to the next. 1 in the morning. Most of the victims were asleep. Right from the get-go, he kicked in the door, broke the deadbolt. All the co-defendants and Troy Victorino brutally murdered the victims with baseball bats. Then they mutilated the bodies post-mortem, meaning after they were already on to their next life, they end up still doing the worst thing that you can to the granddaughter, to the female, and it was horrible. As you can read right here, Erin had lacerations. You can read that there from her genitals into her abdominal cavity. Some of the bodies had defensive wounds because, of course, they were trying to defend themselves. Named George was stomped to death by Tony. Imagine being just stomped to death. That is the worst. The bodies were found by a co-worker, Christopher Carroll, who came to check on them because they worked at Burger King together. While the crime occurred in Deltona in Volusia County, the trial itself was held in St. Augustine because of all the publicity that it got. At St. Johns County Courthouse. Like I said, he was only at where I was at not very long, and then they took him to St. Augustine. The trial was moved because it was presumed that due to the excessive media coverage, there would be no chance of a fair trial. The trial began 2 years after the crimes were committed, and it lasted a month. $1.5 million. The trial was presented by Parsons. The trial came to an end on August 2nd, 2006, with Parsons upholding the jury's death penalty. Like I said, he got that overturned, and right now he is fighting for the life sentence to get, taken off. Sentencing, you got conspiracy to commit murder, and then he's got first-degree murder. This was in 2000. This is right when I got out of prison in 2006. As I was coming out of prison, they were coming in. I remember. All of them had murder, abuse of a human corpse. They got 30 years mandatory. burglary, assault any person, and then tortured animal with intent, and something. And then you got the 10-year, mandatory, or not mandatory, but 10-year sentence. That was just for, this guy was huge. This guy was 6'6". This was Michael Salas, and these are the charges that he had. Like I said, I don't want to really get into these ones because they're like a whole nother story, especially this guy here. He's the one that tortured the animal. But again, you got Troy Victorino as the one who orchestrated the whole thing. It was the bloodiest mass murder in Volusia County history. They even passed the bill SB 146 on 2007, firings after murderers. Probation officer, because this guy was on probation at the time. Troy Victorino was on probation at the time, and he violated his probation. I remember this because it really pissed me off, because once he did that, where I was at, if you got put on probation, you had to go to jail. There was no bond. You didn't even get it. Till this day, because of that law right there, if you violate your probation, in that part, I don't live there no more. I had left once I got older. I got out of there, but I still have no people there. And till this day, if you get locked up for a violation of probation, you do not get a bond, because he was on probation, got locked up, and bonded out while he was on probation, and then did this crime. So because of that, they came out with a bill. And then he appealed his death sentence. It said it was denied, but he also kept fighting and ended up, once they passed the law, that's how it was. So now let me show you. This is him here. His mugshot, as you can see. And he's 6'6". The police report. He kicked in the locked door from the front door of the residence. Hunter was the first person through the door, and he was armed with an aluminum baseball bat. All the remaining co-defendants followed him into the residence armed with aluminum baseball bats. While inside the residence, Hunter repeatedly struck one of the individuals and then struck a second individual after the second individual was struck by one of the co-defendants. After they were finished in the residence, Hunter was the first co-defendant to leave the residence. Co-defendant Victorino was the last to leave. Hunter accordingly accurately described the crime scene, inclusive of the locations of some of the bodies and the manner of death in detail that was only known to the investigation and perpetrators. Hunter stated that he and the co-defendants went to the residence armed with bats and with the intent to use the bats as weapons in a fight. The defendant was interviewed and confessed to his involvement in the homicides and armed burglary. That was the Michael Salas. I can't. But like I said, what I heard inside the streets while I was there is that there's a reason why he wanted that Xbox, why he wanted his belongings so bad. The people that moved into that house had no idea. If they would have the police would have probably gave them, I'm gonna guess that the police would have just gave him his belongings, but I'm sure if they'd have looked, they would have noticed that this Xbox ain't right and would have noticed something was wrong with it. So I don't know. But I'm telling you what I heard in the streets at the time, and there's a lot more people that I have stories on that I can tell y'all for days. This is just one of the most gruesome ones that I can remember, dating back from my time in Daytona Beach, Florida, because that time there was not a good time for witness. I'm going to tell you that now. And I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you do and enjoyed it and would like to see more like this, please let me know in the comment sections. In the comment section. And if you do like it, I have plenty more. And until next time, y'all have a great day, and I'm out. Peace.